All right, let's get into it. Today, we're digging into a farming method that might just be the key to healing our most precious resource, our soil. It's called the no-till revolution, and honestly, it could completely change how you see the ground right under our feet.
You know, for pretty much all of human history, as long as we've been farming, we've done one thing. We've turned over the soil, plowing, tilling, whatever you want to call it. But here's a wild thought. What if that foundational practice, the one thing we've relied on for millennia, was actually a huge mistake?
So to really get why no-till is such a big deal, we've got to start with the problem. Let's take a look at the unseen consequences of this very old farming tradition. When a plow cuts through a field, it looks clean, right? Ready to go. But what you're really looking at is bare, fragile earth. It's totally exposed to wind and rain, and that act of turning it over just pulverizes the complex living world that exists right below the surface.
Okay, so if turning the soil is the problem, what's the answer? Well, it's a pretty radical idea that is literally gaining ground. Let's talk about the no-till solution.
The whole concept is actually beautiful in its simplicity. Instead of plowing, you just leave the leftover stuff from last year's crop, the stalks, the stems, right there on the field. Then, you plant the new seeds directly through that protective blanket. It's a massive shift from trying to fight nature to actually working with it.
So how do you actually do it? Well, this right here is the key piece of tech, and this is not your granddad's planner. A no-till drill is built to be incredibly precise. It slices a tiny, perfect furrow through all that residue, drops the seed in, and closes it right back up, all while barely disturbing anything.
And this slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got tillage, which is all about breaking things down. It's this major disruptive event every single year. But look at the right. No-till is all about building up. It protects, it shields, and it helps create a stronger, more resilient soil over time.
So what really happens when you just stop plowing? This is where it gets really cool. A whole chain reaction of benefits starts to happen right under our feet. This is the absolute heart of why this method is so good for the soil.
Let's start with a huge number. More than 60%. What is that? That's the typical drop in soil erosion. That layer of old crop acts like a suit of armor for the ground. So when a big storm hits, that precious topsoil stays right where it belongs.
And that armor does more than just stop erosion. It actually breaks the force of the raindrops, so the soil doesn't get hammered into a hard crust. That means way more water can just soak right in, recharging the moisture deep down. The land becomes more like a sponge and less like a brick.
This quote really it nails it. It's not just dirt anymore. By leaving it alone, you let an entire ecosystem come back to life and actually start to thrive.
And what does a thriving ecosystem look like? How about this? 120,000 earthworms per acre. These are nature's own little plows, digging tunnels that let air and water move through the soil, making it way easier for the crop's roots to grow deep.
And you see, it all works together. That topsoil stays put, so organic matter builds up. That organic matter holds on to more water, which gives you natural drought resistance. All the tiny life, the bacteria, the fungi, they flourish, breaking down old plants and feeding the new ones. And over time, the soil literally gets softer.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? But you're probably thinking, it can't be as simple as just not plowing anymore. And you're right, it takes a whole new mindset.
First off, you need the right tools for the job. Remember that suit of armor we talked about? Well, you need equipment that can get through it. We're talking razor-sharp disc openers that slice cleanly through all that tough residue to place the seed exactly where it needs to be.
And I love this quote from a farmer because it gets to a really key point. Success here isn't about brute force. It's about finesse. It's about having your gear dialed in perfectly and waiting for the right conditions. When you nail it, the results speak for themselves.
And often, a really successful no-till system has a secret weapon: cover crops. These are plants grown in between your main harvest, not to sell, but just for the soil. They keep living roots in the ground all year, which breaks up hard soil and keeps feeding that entire underground world.
So we've seen what this does on the farm, but let's zoom out. Why does healthy soil actually matter to all of us, even if we're nowhere near a farm?
Well, the benefits just ripple outward. When soil holds more water, you get better drought resistance. That means a more stable food supply for everyone. Farmers save a ton of money on fuel since they're not driving over their fields as much. And because the soil isn't washing away, fewer fertilizers end up in our rivers and streams. I mean, it's a win-win-win. And if you're thinking, okay, that's nice, but what about the yield? Well, get this. It's kind of amazing. In national corn growing competitions, no-till fields consistently win in the non-irrigated category. Why? Because that healthy, living soil is just so much better at holding water and giving the crop a drink whenever it needs one.
So, when you put all the pieces together, the takeaway is just crystal clear. Building healthy soil isn't just some farming technique, it's a real investment in our future. It is the literal foundation for a food system that's more stable, more profitable, and just plain healthier for the planet.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought. We spent 10,000 years trying to dominate the soil, to force it to do what we want. And it turns out, the real power was unleashed when we just stopped, when we just let it be. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other powerful natural systems are out there just waiting for us to work with them instead of against them?